The patience of Israeli allies is running out. After more than 7 months of intense warfare in Gaza, key allies like the United Kingdom, France, and Canada have issued their strongest warning yet. Stop the offensive or face the consequences. This message comes as Israeli airstrikes continue pounding Gaza with more than 300 Palestinians killed in the last wave, including women, children, and aid workers. One strike hit a school turned shelter, another hit a family house, and in just 30 minutes, at least 38 Palestinians were killed in an overnight bombing. A school, an abandoned fuel station, and even ambulances were amongst the targeted. So why now? Why are countries that have stood by Israel for months and months suddenly taking such a hard line, suddenly taking such a hard stance against Israel? So let's rewind a little. After the October 7 Hamas attack that killed 1,200 Israelis and saw 251 people taken hostage, the West gave Israel something priceless: a huge reserve of international goodwill. They believed Israel had the right to defend itself, but now that goodwill appears to be gone. The final tipping point: it wasn't just the rising death toll, it was the killing of 15 paramedics and aid workers in a convoy followed by Israel alleged covering their bodies in sand. A recovered phone video later showed that clearly marked ambulances were deliberately targeted, contradicting Israel's official explanation of this whole event. So that was the tipping point. That moment, according to the European diplomat, crossed a red line. And on Monday, the UK, France, and Canada jointly declared the level of human suffering in Gaza to be intolerable. Finally, they have said that. And Israel's latest offensive, a complete disproportionate. They threatened quote-unquote concrete actions unless the military campaign stops and more humanitarian aid is allowed into Gaza. And here is the twist: the criticism isn't just coming from abroad. Even inside Israel, their own country, prominent opposition voices are warning that the country is becoming quote-unquote an outcast among the nations. Yet a retired general and political leader slammed the war strategy, saying, and I quote very sincerely, a sane country doesn't kill babies as a hobby. That is a very strong statement. In response, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu allowed a minimum amount of aid into Gaza. That's a minimal amount. But critics say it's not enough. Only 5 UN trucks made it through. Netanyahu admitted the move came under pressure from allies, but he insists Israel must decimate, defeat Hamas, and secure Gaza completely. Anything less, he says, would reward the terrorism. However, his decision drew outrage from the hardliners in his own coalition, who accused him of fueling Hamas. And now France, Canada, and the UK are warning, if Israel doesn't stop war, we will act. What that action will look like, it's unclear, but it could include sanctions or even recognizing Palestine as an independent state, a move that has already been backed by some 148 countries. The political tide is clearly turning. As Israel prepares and pressures forwards in Gaza, it may find itself increasingly isolated in the global dynamics, even by those who once stood firmly in its corner. Because in global politics, goodwill isn't infinite. Once it's gone, the consequences can be very real.